I'm going to show you how to cut the hinge mortise with the chisel. And I've got 3 chisels here, 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1/4 inch. I just keep the cheapest chisels because they always get, busted and scratched and lost. And you really don't need great chisels for this. You don't need a 100-year-old Japanese chisel that costs $2,000 that you spend all weekend sharpening. We just need to cut this cleanly and evenly and get a hinge in here. So if you are a professional woodworker who spends hours doing this and critiquing videos, just save your critique. I don't care. I am not a wood carver. We just need to cut a clean mortise and install the hinge and get the door hung. So save your OCD and your anal retentive attitude for someone who cares. All right, now let's cut this hinge mortise. Keep in mind that I try to use a router whenever I can, but sometimes you've got to do these over your head, down on one knee, around a corner. Sometimes there just isn't room. So you got to be able to do this by hand. Start by making an outline. Use your 1 inch or your 3/4 on your straight lines. Use the 1/4 inch for the curves. Get that outline cut cleanly. So now, whenever we are working with our chisel, we want to cut out as little amount of wood as possible. So I don't want to just stick my chisel in here and try to pry up this whole strip. When you're working in small pieces, it's much easier. So I'm going to cut this into small strips. And some experts will tell you, you got to move in this direction, you got to move in that direction, you got to hold it this way or stand this way. When you're working on doors, you could be standing anywhere. You could be holding that chisel with either hand. There are often very tight space restrictions, so you got to be able to do this any way you can. Now you have lots of small pieces, and it's very easy to cut them out. And now you put your bevel down toward the door. Don't worry about how uneven these are. We're going to fine tune this just to getting the first layer out. Now we've got some cleaning up to do, but we're almost there. And if you create a deep valley, if you get a big chunk out, don't worry. The hinges are very forgiving. They can take it. Do your tests. Our shape looks pretty good, but we're still too high. Chisels at this point, if you're more comfortable doing that with your fine tuning. I'll go to a smaller chisel here in this corner. You might be thinking, but Pete, that looks horrible. Yeah, well, it's going to be covered up by the hinge. We're not doing fine furniture here. So as long as it's not egregious. Now we're good there, but it's still just a little too high. When you have a really sharp chisel, you don't even need a hammer. You can just push it. And again, I don't keep great chisels because my chisels get thrown around, banged around. They get dropped and stepped on and thrown in the bag. And I'm not a guy who, keeps a sharpening stone or anything. My chisels get dull. I just turn them into stone chisels and then I buy new ones. And there you are. It's not as perfect as a router, but it doesn't have to be. You'll get better at this. Sometimes I do them rough like this. Sometimes I do them perfect. Point is, learn how to use this thing because you're going to have to.